Elara Flynn hit the pavement hard. Well, technically, she fainted before her knees ever got the chance to break the fall. One moment she was walking down Fifth Avenue, clutching her canvas tote and praying the heat wouldn't melt her last brain cell, then boom. Everything turned white. When she came to, the sun still blazed overhead, but she was in the shade now. Someone must have moved her. Her lips were dry, her arms trembling, and a cool plastic water bottle was pressed gently to her mouth. Easy, a voice said, low, calm, and way too smooth for this heatstroke hallucination. Sip, don't chug. Her eyes blinked open, and for a second she thought she really was hallucinating. Because no one that good-looking had ever hovered over her before. He had dark hair pushed back like he'd run his fingers through it 1,000 times, a tailored white shirt rolled to his elbows, and eyes the color of storm clouds right before they broke. You fainted, he said. It's over 100 degrees out here. I was walking out of that building when I saw you drop. Elara's throat burned as the water hit it. Thanks, she mumbled, trying to sit up. He reached out to steady her, his palm warm and steady against her shoulder. Don't rush it. She looked around. They were by the glass doors of a towering skyscraper, and people were walking past like it was nothing, sweat on their brows, phones glued to their ears. But he wasn't rushing off. He was crouched beside her, completely focused. I'm fine, she insisted, even though her cheeks were burning more from embarrassment than the sun now. Just didn't eat enough before walking. Totally my fault. He didn't move. Do you get dizzy often? She frowned. No. I'm not a Victorian lady with a corset. He smiled, and suddenly the heat didn't feel so bad. Good to know. She finally sat up, brushing her palms on her skirt. I should go. You're not walking anywhere until you finish that water, he said, nodding at the bottle. And maybe sit for 5 more minutes. You almost cracked your head open on concrete. Elara groaned. This is the worst day ever. Could be worse, he said. You could have fainted in front of someone who didn't stop. Or someone who didn't carry water. Do you always carry water around? I was leaving a meeting, he said, gesturing to the building. I keep bottles in the car. Of course you have a car with water bottles, she muttered. He laughed, then stood and offered her a hand. I'm Fletcher Montgomery. She hesitated but took it. His grip was firm, not pushy. Elara Flynn. Nice to meet you, Elara Flynn. Let me drive you home. What? No, I'm fine, really. You just passed out. I'm not going to let you hop on a subway like nothing happened. I wasn't going to the subway, she lied. I was heading to an appointment. He tilted his head. Wearing a paint-stained tote bag and sandals with one broken strap? She narrowed her eyes. You're very observant, huh? Only when someone collapses in front of me. Let me help. I have a driver. It's air-conditioned. You'll be home in 10 minutes. She hesitated, then sighed. Fine. But only because it's over 100 degrees and I'm too tired to argue. Fair trade, he said, guiding her toward a sleek black car waiting at the curb. The driver opened the door like it was second nature. She slid in and the cool air hit her like heaven. Fletcher got in beside her and nodded at the driver. Take us to West Village. Elara blinked. How did you? You've got paint under your nails and your shoes are from that little shop on Perry Street. She stared at him. You're creepy. I'm perceptive. Still creepy. He gave her a lazy grin. You'll survive the ride. And she did. The car was silent except for the soft hum of classical music, which didn't suit him at all. He looked like the type who thrived in boardrooms and didn't sleep much. When they reached her apartment, she expected him to let her go with a wave. Instead, he got out and walked her to her building like they were old friends. I'll be fine, she said again, fumbling with her keys. You say that a lot. She glanced up. Thank you. Really? For the water. And the ride. You didn't have to stop. I know, he said. But I'm glad I did. That threw her. She didn't know what to say to that. He pulled something from his pocket and handed it to her. A white card with his name Fletcher Montgomery and nothing else but a phone number. If you feel faint again, call me. Or if you want to pretend to faint again just to get another ride in air-conditioned luxury, that's allowed too. Elara laughed before she could stop herself. Do women fall at your feet often? Only the interesting ones. She shook her head, smiling despite herself. Goodbye, Fletcher Montgomery. See you, Elara Flynn. He left, walking back to the car like he didn't just completely throw her off her axis. Elara didn't call him. She told herself it was a one-time thing. Just a dramatic moment in the middle of a heat wave. Nothing more. But then, 3 days later, she walked into the art supply store she worked at and found a white box on the counter. Inside was a chilled water bottle, a tiny fan, and a note, just in case you faint again. Elara stared at the note, her heart thudding. She should have known then this wasn't over. Elara didn't see him again for 6 days. In those 6 days, she touched the card he gave her twice, once to throw it in the trash and once to take it back out 15 seconds later. She kept it tucked inside an old library book on her nightstand, right between pages 304 and 305. The note in the box she received at work was folded smaller than a matchbook and lived in her wallet now, wedged behind a Subway punch card she hadn't used in months. She didn't expect him to show up again. Men like him didn't reappear. They lived in top-floor suites behind frosted glass and wore pressed shirts that probably cost more than her monthly rent. They didn't follow up with girls who worked behind paint-splattered counters in stores that smelled like turpentine and linseed oil. So when Fletcher walked into the store on a Thursday afternoon wearing a navy jacket and a look like he had every right to be there, Elara nearly knocked over a tower of sketch pads. "You're out of cobalt blue," he said, sliding a small empty paint tube across the counter. She blinked. "That's because we don't carry Winsor & Newton's artist grade here." He leaned forward, voice soft. "Good. I was hoping you'd say that." "Because I didn't come here for paint." Elara crossed her arms. "Let me guess. You came to check if I fainted again." "No," he said. "I came because I couldn't get you out of my head." Her mouth went dry. He didn't wait for her to respond. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a slim folder. "I have an opening coming up. I'm commissioning a mural for a new development on the East River. I saw some of your work online." Her brow furrowed. "I don't post my art." "Yes, but someone tagged you at a gallery last year. A friend of mine was there. You did a piece called Drift. Oil on Wood." It stopped him in his tracks. Elara's heart was pounding now. Not from flattery. From disbelief. "You're offering me work?" "I'm offering you a chance," he said, placing the folder on the counter. "Sketches due in 2 weeks. If I like the direction, the job's yours." She stared at the folder like it might vanish. "Why me?" "Because you see movement in stillness," he replied. "And because I trust my gut." She hesitated. "There are hundreds of more experienced artists." "I'm not looking for experienced," he interrupted. "I'm looking for someone who sees the world differently." Elara opened the folder. Inside was a description of the space, a long, curved wall in a glass atrium overlooking the river. It was unlike anything she'd ever done. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. "I can't promise anything amazing," she said. "I'm not asking for amazing," he said. "I'm asking for honest." Her fingers stilled. "Where would it be displayed?" "Headquarters of Montrose International." She looked up sharply. "Wait, your last name isn't Montgomery, is it?" "It is," he said. "But my full name is Fletcher Montgomery Montrose." Her body went still. Montrose wasn't just a company name. It was a dynasty. Shipping, real estate, tech startups, private equity. A name whispered in boardrooms and printed in glossy magazines. She'd walked past one of their buildings just last week and pretended not to gawk at the lobby's chandelier. "Yours," she started. "Yes," he said, not unkindly. And just like that, the pieces clicked. The driver, the bespoke suit, the effortless confidence. He wasn't just wealthy. He was the kind of wealthy that made her tongue feel too large in her mouth. He watched her carefully. "Still want to faint on me?" She shut the folder. "No, but I might drop something." Fletcher smiled, and for a moment, the air between them was warm again, but not from the sun this time. "What do you want from this?" she asked, voice steady. He didn't blink. "I want your art on that wall. And I want to know you. I don't date clients." "Then we'll call it something else," he said. "Dinner. Conversation. No contracts. No expectations." Elara leaned on the counter. "You're not used to hearing no, are you?" "I hear it," he said. "I just don't let it stop me." She hadn't realized how close he was until now. Close enough that she could see a faint scar near his temple, half hidden beneath his hair. It softened him somehow. I should say no, she murmured. But you're not, he said. She exhaled. Where? Wherever you'll let me take you. She chewed the inside of her cheek. There's a place near my apartment. It's not fancy. Plastic chairs. Great noodles. He didn't flinch. Text me the address. 8 o'clock. She nodded slowly. Fine. But you pay for your own dumplings. He raised his brows. Deal. As he turned to leave, she called out, Why cobalt blue? He paused. It's the color of a storm when it clears. And then he was gone. Elara looked down at the folder again, pulse racing. She didn't know what scared her more, that she was saying yes to dinner with a billionaire, or that a man like Fletcher Montgomery had somehow already started seeing inside her. Elara arrived at the noodle shop 5 minutes late, half expecting him not to be there. But he was. Tucked into the narrow booth at the back, Fletcher looked completely out of place among the cracked linoleum floors, humming fluorescent lights, and faded posters of cartoon dumplings. Yet he didn't seem to notice. His jacket was off, sleeves rolled, tie gone. His hair was slightly tousled, and a pair of reading glasses rested on the table beside a half-empty glass of plum soda. You came, he said, standing as she approached. You sound surprised. I'm not. Just relieved. She slid into the booth opposite him, the vinyl seats sticking slightly to the backs of her knees. I almost didn't. What changed your mind? I figured if you showed up in a place with no valet, no wine list, and a bathroom with a flickering light, you deserved a fair shot. He laughed, and it was a low, genuine sound that made her stomach twist. The waitress appeared, dropping off laminated menus without a word. Fletcher picked this up with genuine curiosity. So, Elara said, watching him scan the choices, what exactly does someone like you do all day? Today? 3 meetings, 1 site visit, and a tense call with a logistics partner in Rotterdam who thinks our port fees are excessive. She blinked. That's oddly specific. I didn't think vague billionaire answers would impress you. Correct. He set the menu down. What about you? I spent 3 hours organizing ink refills, got yelled at by a woman who thought gesso was toxic, and then broke a pencil display trying to reach a pack of brushes. He grinned. Sounds intense. It was chaos. I barely survived. The waitress returned, and Fletcher ordered the pork noodles without hesitation. Elara got the sesame dumplings and a ginger soda. When the waitress left, she leaned back in her seat. You don't seem like someone who's used to being told no. I hear it more than you think, he said. From who? Investors. City planners. My mother once told me no to a dog when I was 10. I still haven't recovered. Elara snorted. Tragic. His gaze fixed on her. You're different. Because I didn't faint into your arms again? No, he said. Because you're not trying to impress me. Most people do. You look me in the eyes and expect answers. I like answers. I like questions. She tilted her head. What kind of questions? Why does someone who paints with so much movement work behind a counter all day? Elara stiffened. That sounds dangerously close to judgment. It's not. It's curiosity. She hesitated, then said, because I can't afford to paint full-time. Because my dad left a mess behind and my mom needed help. Because I promised myself I wouldn't go into debt for a dream I wasn't sure I could hold onto. He didn't look away. And now I'm still figuring out if I want to risk wanting more. The food arrived, hot and fragrant. Fletcher picked up his chopsticks like he'd used them 1,000 times. Elara watched him for a beat before diving into her dumplings. They ate in silence for a while, the clatter of dishes around them filling the air. Then he said, I wasn't supposed to be on that street last week. My meeting ended early and I told my driver to take the long way back. She paused mid-bite. I don't believe in fate, he continued. But I do believe in timing. Elara set her chopsticks down. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone colder, detached, less attentive. I can be all those things, he said. But not with you. She looked down at her plate, her voice quieter. I don't want to be a project. You're not. You're not just offering me a mural, she said. You're offering me something I'm not sure I can hold. I'm not asking you to hold it, he said. I'm just asking you to look at it. Her heart thudded against her ribs. After dinner, they exited into the warm night, the sidewalk buzzing with summer energy. A street musician strummed a guitar near the corner, and a couple laughed loudly as they passed. He walked beside her, hands in his pockets. You don't need to walk me home, she said. I know. You're doing it anyway. I wanted to know what your street looks like. She glanced up at him. Why? Because if I ever lose you, I want to know where to start. Elara stopped walking. Fletcher turned when he noticed she wasn't beside him anymore. That's a heavy thing to say, she said. It's a true thing. He didn't step closer, just waited. She swallowed. I'm not used to this. Neither am I. A silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It hummed with something unspoken. Then she said, You're not the only one who wasn't supposed to be there that day. I'd taken a wrong turn. I was supposed to meet someone for lunch. I bailed. Last second. He nodded. So maybe we both made mistakes. Maybe, she said. They reached her building. She turned to face him on the stoop. I don't know what this is, she admitted. Neither do I, he said. But I'd like to keep finding out. She took a breath. One dinner doesn't mean I trust you. I don't need your trust yet, he said. I just need your time. Elara hesitated, then said, I'll bring sketches next week. His eyes didn't leave hers. I'll clear my schedule. She opened the door, then paused. Fletcher. Yes. I don't believe in fate either. But I believe in decisions. Then I hope you keep choosing me. She didn't say anything else. But she didn't close the door right away either. Elara stood on the mezzanine of the Montrose atrium, her sketchbook clutched to her chest, trying not to let her knees give out. Not from the heat this time, but because the wall she was about to paint, the wall Fletcher had given her, stretched in a sweeping arc of polished plaster and glass, bathed in morning light that made every dust mote glow like confetti. It felt impossible. And yet somehow it was hers. Tell me you don't hate it, she whispered as Fletcher stepped beside her. I don't hate it, he said. I think it's going to change everything. His voice was lower than usual, more careful. Like he knew what it meant for her to stand here in a building that practically breathed money, holding a pencil cracked at one end and a sketchbook she'd bought on clearance. She opened to the first page. He didn't look at her. He looked at the drawing. It was a wave, not literal but kinetic. A rush of motion in brushstrokes and gravity, the kind that carried you forward whether you wanted to move or not. It took her 3 weeks to get it right. 3 weeks of waking up in a panic, of doubting herself, of wondering why she'd said yes in the first place. He nodded once, the smallest gesture. It's you. I don't want it to be safe, she said. It's not. It's honest. She shut the sketchbook. I need scaffolding, a 2-week window, and a promise that no one touches it while it dries. You'll have it. She turned to him then. Why are you doing this? He paused. Because I know what it's like to build something and not be sure if anyone will ever understand it. She studied him. You mean Montrose? I mean me. That caught her off guard. Fletcher, for all his suits and shadowed ambition, had never once looked unsure of who he was. But now his eyes held something quieter. Not vulnerability. Just truth. My father built this company like a fortress, he said. Every floor, every contract, every decision cemented in legacy. I spent years trying to live inside it without losing myself. Did you? She asked. Almost, he said. But then you fainted in front of it. And suddenly all the lines cracked. Elara looked away, flustered, heat curling under her skin again. That's a dramatic way of saying I ruined your day. You changed it, he said. There's a difference. They walked the length of the wall together. The atrium was still under construction, with plastic-wrapped furniture and the smell of plaster hanging in the air. But she could already hear the echo of footsteps that would pass through here one day. People in suits. People with purpose. He stopped walking. I want to show you something. She frowned. Now? He was already pulling out his phone, speaking quietly to someone on the other end. Then he turned back. Car's waiting. She followed without asking. They drove east, past the river, into a neighborhood she didn't recognize. Not shiny and new like downtown, but older. Industrial. The kind of place that smelled like history and wet concrete. The car stopped in front of a brick building with ivy crawling up the side. Fletcher opened the door for her. "Come inside." She hesitated, then followed him through a wide steel door and up 2 flights of narrow stairs. The space they entered was massive, an empty loft with high windows and sunlight pouring across the floor like gold. "What is this?" she asked. "Yours, if you want it." She turned sharply. "What?" "I bought it a year ago. Was going to turn it into a private office. But it's wasted that way. You need space. Light? A place to work without worrying if someone's asking you to restock brushes." Her breath caught. "You can't just give me a studio." "I can," he said. "But I'm not. I'm offering it as part of the mural contract. You need a place to paint. This is it. Rent-free while the project lasts." She stared at him. "And after? We renegotiate. Or you walk away with nothing owed." He looked at her, serious now. "No strings. Only paint." Elara stepped into the light, her fingers brushing along the raw brick. The air smelled like dust and possibility. "I don't know how to thank you for this without feeling like I've just traded something of myself," she said quietly. "You haven't," he replied. "I'm not asking for anything. I just want to see what you become when no one's holding you back." She turned to him. "You don't scare me, Fletcher. I'm not trying to. You just make it hard to breathe sometimes." He stepped closer. "Then let me make it easier." She didn't move. "I've tried to stay out of this," he murmured. "Tried to keep it professional. But every time I see you, it gets harder to pretend I'm not already wrapped in you." Her hands were trembling now. Not from nerves. From knowing she was about to fall and not wanting to stop it. "I don't want to be someone's charity project," she said. "You're not. You're the one who gave me something I didn't know I needed." "What's that?" "Peace. And the terrifying realization that I want something real." She stared at him. "I'm not polished. I eat dinner from takeout boxes. I lose my keys twice a week. I've had enough polished," he said. "I want real." So she kissed him. Because she couldn't not. And when he kissed her back, it wasn't careful. It was full of everything they hadn't dared say until now. Heat, gratitude, disbelief, want. He held her like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. When she finally pulled away, her voice was barely a whisper. "I'm scared." "Good," he said. "So am I." They stood there in the sunlight, surrounded by dust and echoing silence, and for the first time in years, Elara didn't feel like she was balancing on the edge of something. She felt like she was standing in the middle of it. The mural took 6 weeks to complete. The day it was unveiled, Fletcher didn't make a speech. He stood beside her, hand at her back, while the room full of executives stared at the wall with stunned silence. No one applauded. Not right away. Because they were still processing what they were seeing. When the silence broke, it was thunderous. He leaned in, whispered into her ear, "Told you it would change everything." She looked up at him, eyes bright. "It already has." And when his hand found hers, she didn't let go. Not that day. Not ever. Rain drummed lightly on the rooftop skylights above Elara's new studio, casting shifting patterns of gray across the paint-splattered floor. The mural was complete. The opening gala had already faded into memory, and the atrium now bore her name on a brass plaque beside the sweeping wall of color and movement. But Elara hadn't touched a brush in 5 days. She stood barefoot in the middle of the loft, arms folded, staring at a blank canvas taller than she was. Her thoughts ran in too many directions. The mural had launched her into a world she didn't recognize. Interviews, gallery offers, commissions from strangers with perfect teeth and vague words like vision and potential. She wanted to feel triumphant. She didn't. Footsteps echoed on the iron staircase behind her. She didn't turn. "I could tell you to paint," Fletcher said, his voice gentle. "But I think you'd rather argue with the canvas a little longer." She exhaled slowly. "It's not the canvas. It's me. I don't know what comes next." He stopped a few feet behind her. "You don't have to know. You just have to choose." "I'm afraid I'll choose wrong." "Then you'll choose again." She turned finally. "It's not that simple. It is, he said. When the stakes are your own. Elara sat on the edge of the low sofa, her knees pulled up. People think I have answers now. But I'm just as unsure as I was when I stocked brushes and tried not to cry over rent. You don't have to become someone else just because the world's decided you matter. She looked up. You make it sound easy. I've spent nearly 2 decades being exactly who I thought I was supposed to be, he said, stepping into the light. And I still don't sleep through the night. So no, it's not easy. But it's worth it. He held out a hand. Not commanding. Not coaxing. Just there. She took it. He pulled her to her feet and slid a velvet box from his coat pocket. Her breath caught. Before you panic, he said, it's not a ring. Yet. Elara's heart thudded hard against her ribs. He opened the box. Inside lay a silver key with an ornate handle shaped like a blooming iris. I bought the building, he said. The whole thing. Your studio's on the top floor. There's a gallery space below. Offices on the 2nd floor for a foundation I'm setting up. To fund artists like you. Ones who never got a first chance, let alone a second. She stared at him, stunned. You did this for me? I did it because of you, he said. Because you reminded me why I wanted to build something real in the first place. And because I want you to have a place that's yours. Not borrowed. Not temporary. Yours. Elara's hand trembled as she traced the edge of the key. I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay, he said. Say you'll keep painting. Say you'll let me walk beside you even when you're unreachable and silent and covered in paint and impossible to understand. Her eyes shimmered. You think I'm impossible to understand? I love that you are. She kissed him. Not like the first time, rushed and desperate, full of surprise. This kiss was slow. Certain. A promise. When she pulled back, her voice was soft. You terrify me. I'll take that as progress. I love you, she said, the words barely audible before they gained confidence. I love you, Fletcher Montrose. His hands tightened at her waist. I've been waiting to hear that since the day you collapsed and told me off about Victorian corsets. She laughed, brushing her forehead against his. I was a mess. You still are, he said. But now you're mine. They stood there, wrapped in each other in the middle of the rain-lit studio, the scent of turpentine and citrus lingering in the air. 2 months later, the gallery beneath her studio opened with a showcase of 5 emerging artists, each one funded by the new Montrose Foundation for Creative Equity. Elara's mural had become a tourist attraction, and her inbox overflowed with offers she no longer felt pressure to chase. She accepted only the ones that made her heart beat faster. Fletcher worked fewer hours now. He turned down board seats and passed on acquisitions. He still wore suits, but sometimes she caught him barefoot in her studio, sketching on napkins and pretending he didn't care if she judged the proportions. They traveled when she wanted to. Sometimes to art fairs, sometimes to nowhere at all. Fletcher had a particular fondness for lakeside cottages where phones didn't work and they could cook together without anyone around to interrupt. He made a terrible omelet and a perfect cup of coffee. She forgave the former because of the latter. They didn't rush marriage. It came one autumn morning, quiet and unannounced. They stood in the middle of the atrium beneath her mural, just the two of them, and said the words with no audience and no fanfare. The only witness was the art that had brought them together in the first place. He slipped a ring on her finger, a delicate band with a single sapphire the color of stormlight, and whispered, "This is the only legacy I care about now." Elara kissed him and whispered, "I'm still not fainting again." He replied, "I'll catch you anyway." She laughed, then kissed him again. And outside the glass walls, the city moved on. Fast and loud and full of stories. But inside they were still. Together. Home.